You know those little security warnings you get when you sign up for a new enterprise cloud service or like a productivity tool?
Oh yeah, the ones that pop up with that reassuring little shield icon.
Exactly. The ones constantly telling you how deeply the vendor values your data security.
Right, it's that comforting corporate boilerplate. It usually says something super soothing like, your privacy is our top priority,
But then, to actually use the tool, you have to click an I agree button.
which nobody ever reads.
Never. And if you actually did read the terms, that button legally permits them to ingest, process, and analyze your company's most sensitive data on their servers.
Yeah, it's wild. We've just collectively accepted this massive contradiction as the standard cost of doing business today.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because our mission today is to explore a radical but surprisingly accessible shift in how we manage our digital workflows and our data.
And we are talking directly to you, whether you run a small business, manage an IT department, or just, care deeply about where your digital footprint actually ends up.
For sure. Our guide for this deep dive is a highly provocative article from the July 12, 2026 edition of Tech Reader magazine. It's by Aaron Rose, and it's titled Stop Talking About Data Privacy. Start doing it.
It's honestly a complete inversion of the accepted enterprise playbook. Rose argues that the exit door from the cloud has actually been unlocked for a while now.
But nobody is talking about how to walk through it.
Exactly. I mean, everyone in the tech industry is constantly telling you to protect your data, but the exact same people are selling you the cloud systems that systematically extract it.
Right. So let's start with the actual hidden price of this convenience we have all bought into. Rose makes a point that feels almost too obvious once you hear it.
That the cloud was always just someone else's server?
Yes. We basically traded our institutional knowledge for elasticity and convenience. Let's explain the business dynamic here. I was thinking of it like renting a commercial kitchen for your growing bakery.
Okay, I like that. So it's state-of-the-art and incredibly convenient.
Right. But the landlord is always standing over your shoulder. They're taking notes on your secret recipes, observing exactly how long you need the dough, and like tracking which ingredients sell best.
And then they use that proprietary knowledge to open a competing bakery across the street.
Exactly. You are paying rent, but you're also freely giving away the very thing that makes your business valuable.
What's fascinating here is how the artificial intelligence era has taken this dynamic and just, massively accelerated it.
Oh, for sure. Because it's not passive anymore.
Right. In the early days of the cloud, maybe your data just sat in a database. It was extracted passively. But now, when a business uses a commercial cloud AI model, that extraction is immediate.
Let's look at the actual mechanism of how that works. Like, what happens when you type a prompt?
Well, every single prompt you type in reveals a highly specific problem your business is trying to solve.
And it's worse when you correct the AI, right?
Oh, absolutely. Every time you correct a hallucination or refine the AI's output, you are providing reinforcement learning. You are doing unpaid labor to tune their multi-billion-dollar algorithm.
So to build on the bakery idea, it's not just a business problem, it's a technical leak. It's like checking a book out of a public library, and you write your confidential company strategy in the margins.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And then the library immediately publishes your notes on the front page of the town newspaper for everyone to read.
That is a perfect way to visualize it, because in a very diffuse but very real sense, your company's internal logic and your workflows become part of that commercial model's general understanding of how businesses operate.
So you aren't just a customer anymore.
No, you are a data source. You are effectively paying for intelligence twice. Once with your monthly subscription fee, and a second time with the proprietary data you have to reveal just to make the tool useful.
That leads to a massive logical gap, though. I mean, if the cloud is a trap where we are paying twice and leaking our operational secrets, how did we get tricked into this?
Right, like why did every single business move to the cloud in the first place?
Yeah, why give up that control?
This takes us into Rose's critique of modern tech architecture. He argues this migration was heavily driven by what he calls the Netflix myth.
The Netflix myth. Okay, break that down for us.
Well, for the last decade, the tech industry has glorified incredible engineering achievements. We are talking about highly complex architectures. Things like distributed systems, microservices, container orchestration, serverless functions.
Okay, let's pause and translate some of that because it sounds really impressive. But what does container orchestration actually mean in plain English for a normal business?
Right, let's simplify it. Think of building an application like running a restaurant.
Okay, I'm with you.
In a traditional setup, you have one big kitchen making the whole meal. Everyone is in the same room. But in a microservices architecture using containers, you break the application into tiny, isolated pieces.
No separate kitchens.
Exactly. You have a separate independent kitchen just for chopping lettuce, another one miles away just for grilling burgers, and another one for baking buns.
Okay, that sounds incredibly chaotic.
It is. Container orchestration is the incredibly complex software that manages the fleet of trucks moving the lettuce to the burger at the exact millisecond it's needed.
Wow. That sounds incredibly stressful to manage.
It absolutely is. Now, if you are Netflix or YouTube and you need to stream 4K video to 100 million people simultaneously across the globe without a second of buffering,
Then you need that kind of setup.
you absolutely need that level of architectural complexity. You need systems that spin up and down dynamically across continents.
But a local hospital managing its scheduling doesn't need a globally distributed fleet of lettuce-chopping kitchens. They just need to book a knee surgery.
Precisely. A mid-sized law firm drafting contracts doesn't need container orchestration. A manufacturer tracking inventory in a local warehouse doesn't need serverless functions.
So they bought into the hype.
Yeah, Rose argues that for the vast majority of organizations, this massive complexity was disguised as sophistication. Businesses were sold incredibly expensive, complicated solutions to problems they simply didn't have.
And with that complexity came total dependency on the vendor.
Exactly.
I hear that, but I have to push back a little on Rose's solution here, because he's advocating for a return to a basic client-server architecture.
He is, yeah.
For you listening, that basically means having a web browser on the user's end, a central server doing the logic, and a single database storing the information. Isn't that how we built software in, like, 2005?
It is.
So isn't going back to that a massive technological retreat?
It sounds like one, but Rose is very clear about this. It is a correction, not a retreat. The three-tier client-server architecture never stopped working.
It just wasn't cool anymore.
Exactly. It didn't suddenly become broken or inadequate for normal business operations. It just became unfashionable. The tech world loves the shiny new thing, and cloud orchestration was shiny.
But a basic server setup is reliable.
It's well understood, it's incredibly reliable, and crucially, it can be debugged by a competent internal team without needing a specialized platform certification.
Right. It's about reclaiming the boundaries of your business. If the application lives on a server you own and the data stays on your local network, the loop is completely closed.
You own it all.
Which makes total sense in theory. But if the cloud is a trap, and going back to local servers is the answer, my immediate thought is, I don't know how to build a server farm. How does a normal business physically pull this off without a massive IT budget?
Well, Rose maps out a very specific unplugged stack to replace the enterprise cloud, and it's built entirely on mature production-ready tools. First of all, you don't need a server farm.
Oh, really?
No, you just take ordinary business hardware, standard, off-the-shelf machines, and you run a stable Linux operating system.
The bedrock of enterprise computing. But what about the day-to-day work? People are used to collaborative cloud documents and spreadsheets.
For office productivity, he points to LibreOffice. It's mature, it's free, it's actively maintained, and most importantly, it does not have telemetry.
Meaning it doesn't track you.
Right. It doesn't constantly sync your keystrokes to a vendor's infrastructure to train their next feature. It just creates standard files locally.
Okay, but then we get to the AI, which is the part I find hardest to believe. How do you run a large language model locally?
It sounds impossible, I know.
I mean, doesn't ChatGPT run on a massive data center filled with tens of thousands of specialized graphics cards? How do you run that on an Office PC?
The trick is you don't run the massive cloud model. You run an open weights model, like Meta's Llama or Mistral or Google's Gemma.
Okay.
And you use a local application like LM Studio to run it. The secret mechanism making that possible is a process called quantization.
Let's define that for the listeners. What is quantization?
Essentially, quantization is a way of compressing the neural network. An AI model is basically a giant web of mathematical weights. By slightly reducing the mathematical precision of those weights,
Like rounding the numbers down.
exactly, rounding them down so they take up less digital space, when you do that, you can shrink a massive model so it fits comfortably into the standard RAM of a normal office computer.
And it still works.
Yes, it retains almost all of its practical intelligence.
Wow. So you get a highly capable AI running directly on your desk. But here's where it gets really interesting and, frankly, a bit challenging.
Oh, the island problem.
Yes. The biggest glaring issue with a totally isolated local AI model is that it is an island. It has no native live connection to the internet.
Right.
It doesn't know the news from this morning. It can't pull a real-time stock price. For a lot of people used to cloud chatbots, that sounds like a total deal breaker.
Rose addresses this perceived limitation directly, and his answer is delightfully counterintuitive. He says you simply open a normal web browser.
What, you just open Chrome or Safari?
Yeah. You, the human being, search for what you need, you read the results, you copy the relevant text, you paste it into your local AI model, and then you ask it to process the information.
Wait, copy and paste? That sounds incredibly manual. I mean, the whole point of AI is supposed to be automation, right?
It seems like friction. But Rose argues this human curation step is the exact thing that makes the output secure and highly useful.
How so?
Well, in the cloud model, you ask the AI to search, and it blindly pulls in whatever SEO-optimized junk it finds, blends it together, and spits out an answer. You have no idea what source material it used.
Right, the black box problem.
Exactly. When you copy and paste, you are applying human judgment.
I see where he's going with this. The article gives a fantastic specific example of an analyst at a financial firm who needs to check overnight regulatory updates.
Yes, that is the perfect use case.
So instead of blindly asking a cloud AI what changed in the regulations today, the analyst opens a browser, finds the official government website, copies the 3 critical paragraphs of the new law, and pastes them into their local offline AI model.
And then they ask the local AI to summarize those 3 paragraphs against the firm's highly confidential internal compliance rules.
And look at the mechanism of security there. The model responds in seconds, doing heavy cognitive lifting, but nothing left the building.
Nothing. The firm's proprietary compliance framework wasn't sent to a cloud vendor. The fact that the firm is investigating this specific regulation wasn't logged by a competitor's system.
Because the value was always in the human deciding what information mattered.
Exactly. The local AI just acts as a private high-speed processor for the text the human curates.
Okay, that covers the daily workflow. But we have to address the dragon in the room.
The IT dragon.
Yes. The biggest reason companies stay tethered to the cloud isn't because they love collaborative documents. It's the fear of the 2 a.m. server crash.
Oh, absolutely. The security blanket of the enterprise SLA.
Right, the service level agreement.
Mm-hmm.
People pay massive monthly cloud bills because they come with a promise. If the system breaks, it is a vendor's problem to fix. Running your own infrastructure means owning your own problems. And historically, if your business relied on some obscure piece of legacy software, running it yourself was terrifying.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is actually where local AI pulls off its greatest trick. It solves the maintenance nightmare.
Really? How?
Because the local AI model running on your server doesn't just draft emails. It understands computer code and system architecture.
I'm trying to wrap my head around this. If a company is stuck running a database from 20 years ago, how does a modern AI help them?
Well, the article highlights some great examples. Take a developer who programmed in Smalltalk, which is an obscure language from the 80s.
Good luck finding someone who still codes in that.
Right. Or an Ingres database administrator who retired back in 2009. Or a FoxPro expert who took all their institutional knowledge with them when they quit.
So companies used systems like FoxPro because they were brilliant in the 90s.
Yeah.
But today, nobody remembers how millions of lines of that undocumented code actually works.
Exactly. They were trapped in a cage built by their own outdated technology.
So they moved to the cloud, hoping the vendor would manage the mess.
But here's the magic. The OpenAI models know these legacy systems. During their training, these models ingested vast public repositories of code, documentation, and technical manuals spanning decades.
Wait, really?
Yeah. They speak Smalltalk, they understand Ingres, they know the syntax of FoxPro.
So if a server goes down at 2 a.m. and it throws an error in a language your current IT guy has never seen,
You don't need to panic and hope a vendor's Tier 1 support desk answers the phone.
you just ask the local AI.
Yes. You feed your legacy code base, your configuration files, and your error logs directly into your local AI. It acts as a senior engineer intimately familiar with your exact setup.
That is wild.
It can translate what the legacy code is trying to do into modern terms, spot the syntax error, and suggest the fix without a ticket queue or a hold time.
So it breaks down the dependency on rare human expertise that made migrating away from the cloud feel impossible?
Exactly. It's like having a veteran IT specialist who has read every manual ever printed, sitting in your server room 24/7, and they never leave for a better job.
That sounds incredibly empowering, almost like magic. But to be fair to our listeners, we need to look at the full picture here. Aaron Rose is very honest about the trade-offs, isn't he?
Oh, he is.
What are you actually giving up to achieve this data sovereignty?
It is vital to acknowledge the reality of this transition. First, you are taking on responsibility. You cannot run a local server stack without an internal person or highly trusted external partner who actually understands the infrastructure and owns its maintenance.
Right. You are saving a fortune on cloud licensing, but you have to invest in human capability.
You have to actually hire a baker rather than just renting a kitchen.
That tracks perfectly.
Second, Rose concedes that a local open weights model running on standard business hardware, like an 8 billion parameter model, for example, is not going to beat a trillion parameter frontier cloud model at complex logic.
Let's define frontier model for a second.
Sure. A frontier model is the massive, cutting-edge AI running in a cloud data center. The ones that cost billions to train and require immense computing power.
The really big ones?
Right. Because of their sheer scale, they are vastly superior at multi-step, highly complex reasoning tasks. If you are doing advanced genomic folding or calculating fluid dynamics, local AI will fall short.
The gap is narrowing, I'm sure, but for the bleeding edge of machine logic, the massive cloud models still lead.
Exactly. And then there's the workflow adjustment, that copy-paste search method we talked about.
Yeah, the human curation step.
It requires a workforce that actually knows how to search, how to read critically, and how to select good information.
Right. It requires the cultivation of real curation skills. You can't just outsource your critical thinking entirely to a chatbot and hope it didn't hallucinate the answer.
No, you have to do the thinking.
So what does this all mean? When you, the listener, weigh those costs, hiring an IT admin, accepting slightly less reasoning power, and doing the hard work of curating your own searches against the benefits, what is the ultimate payoff for taking this leap?
The payoff is absolute sovereignty over your organization's future. When you make this shift, your data never leaves your premises. The mechanism of data extraction is physically severed.
That is a big deal.
It is. Your unique workflows, your corrections, and your operational intelligence do not become free reinforcement training data for your competitors.
That compounding knowledge is huge. Decades of your organization's learning stay locked inside your own walls.
And from a strategic business perspective, your vendor relationships suddenly become optional.
Because you aren't locked in.
Right. If a cloud provider decides to double their pricing next year or drastically change their terms of service, you aren't held hostage. Your switching costs have dropped to near zero because you own the hardware, you run standard open source software, and your invoice for artificial intelligence plummets.
The expertise required to maintain the system becomes a permanent asset of your company, rather than a capability you rent indefinitely from a tech giant.
You are taking the keys to the kitchen back from the landlord. It fundamentally changes the balance of power.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into Aaron Rose's blueprint for reclaiming digital sovereignty. The core message is clear. The exit door from the cloud is wide open. The tools are mature, they run on hardware you can buy today, and local AI is standing there holding the door for you.
You just have to decide if your proprietary data is worth the effort to walk through it.
Exactly.
This raises an important question, something for you to mull over as you evaluate your own daily workflows.
Oh, what's that?
If thousands of businesses wake up and actually take this advice, if they pull their operations back inside their own walls, sever the connection, and stop the daily flow of that incredibly valuable data exhaust, what happens to the massive AI and cloud tech giants?
Wow.
I mean, their entire future roadmaps and multi-billion-dollar valuations rely on silently harvesting that very same enterprise data to train their next generation of frontier models. If the enterprise data well runs dry, who is actually left holding the bag?
A fascinating thought to end on. Remember, it's your bakery. Don't give away the recipe. Catch you on the next deep dive.